Before the main story, I wanted to mention that I saw this story pop up in Car and Driver. 2023 Lordstown Endurance electric pickup is up and running. The battery electric full size pickup truck is aimed at fleet buyers, but the startup has less cash than Rivian and less market clout than Ford. So, this is a picture of the truck. Now, it's funny. About a week ago, I was headed towards Manhattan and I saw one of the Rivian R1Ts, which is the truck version. They also have an R1S, which is like a SUV. And I only noticed it because it had those big, huge oval lights, and nothing else has that. It looked like a freaking Dyson vacuum cleaner up front. And I have to say, this looks, it's not, I can't say it's ugly. It actually looks passable. Like if Ford had put this design forward or if Ram had put this design forward as an electric truck, it's not ugly. It's a little polarizing, I'll say, because, the interesting thing is with these electric vehicles, because they don't need a grill, because they don't need any air coming towards the engine. I think it looks good, honestly. I don't think it doesn't look bad. It's just a little bit polarizing with some of the design elements. But Lordstown Motors, they were accused of fraud, and they said that they didn't have a working vehicle and everything, which actually is surprising to me because it should be extremely easy to build a working EV. If you can't do it yourself, just hire that guy Rich Rebuilds, who literally pulls Teslas out of floods, and the guy rebuilds the whole damn Tesla and puts a freaking V8 in it just to be funny. But if you have a trouble building a working model, that's the guy you need to call. And he's just a YouTuber, so, I'm pretty sure he could come down there and give you a couple of pointers. Either that or maybe he'd be like Alan Turing and he'll just build the whole goddamn thing for you while you wait. But there's this story is on Car and Driver, and they're saying that this truck is going to start at $65,000, which is about exactly what I'll be paying for my Cadillac Lyriq all-wheel drive. And they're saying that they face steep odds, that they don't have as much money as Rivian. And my thing is, I think there's enough hunger for these electric vehicles because, see, there's a lot of people who keep on, turning their nose up. Oh, yeah, no, I got to have a V8 and this, that, and other. And, yeah, I kind of used to be like that, too. But the thing about it is I think that's a phase. First of all, most of these people talking all that shit don't even have a V8. A lot of these people talking that shit have V6s. And things got so bad that, it's funny. Every time Doug DeMuro or another car reviewer shows one of these new cars, right, and it's a gas-powered engine, it's so boring. It's like a twin-turbo four-cylinder or a twin-turbo V6, or it's a turbo four-cylinder, or it's a hybrid four-cylinder, or it's a hybrid V6. I was watching Doug DeMuro's video on the Lexus RX, the new one. And I was like, first of all, that thing's really ugly. And then second of all, when they start talking about the engine, I'm like, that shit is so boring. It's like if that Lexus RX had been an EV, actually, it might have been a little bit more exciting. But it's like now these things are just so boring. And I'm watching Dodge because they just opened up orders for last call vehicles like the Charger and Challenger. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, yeah, good luck buying that stuff, considering that even if you have excellent tier 1 credit, you're still paying over 6% interest, which means that no matter what the fee per month you would have paid back in, say, January for one of those cars, it's like now you're going to end up paying twice as much because, what I think some of the strategies that they've tried to use, it's like they use rebates in order to give the truck or the car to you at 0% interest. So it's kind of like a sleight of hand there. But my thing is, it's like these cars are old. Like the Challenger, the Charger, these things have been around since 2011. These things are so old. These things are literally dinosaurs. It's like, what was it, 2016 February? That's when I bought my Hellcat. Before that, they had those things out since it was 2014. And then 2015, 2016, it was like they had those things out for a while. The celebrities had gotten them. And the average asshole fuckboy on the street was nowhere near one and couldn't possibly get one. And then when they started rapping about them, then all of a sudden these assholes start stealing them and carjacking people for them. But the thing about it to me is it's like, who wants to be trapped in one of those cars in a ninja loan for like the next 8 or 10 years? Because the reality is the interest rates on these things are horrible. It's like it would be different if it was like a 1.9 or if it was even 2.9 or even if it was 3. That wouldn't be so bad. But you're going to be stuck in one of these dinosaurs, and the future is extremely uncertain. I think about the fact that we've literally cut off and canceled Russia. And Russia was sending America, they don't like to talk about it, but Russia was sending America a lot of cheap oil, a lot of cheap gas, a lot of cheap coal. They were sending us a lot of cheap energy. And now we've canceled Russia. So Russia's going to send this shit now to like Southeast Asia and whatever. Pakistan, Bangladesh, India. They're buying. China's buying. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, yo, these Democrats right now, for example, they are purposefully controlling and artificially suppressing energy prices because they know that this election's coming up November 8th. It's right around the corner. And they know they're about to get their asses handed to them. My thing is, if they push us right to the edge and they keep us right at the edge, what happens if something happens? Like, for instance, like Biden has basically damn near emptied out the Strategic Petroleum Reserve, right? They have to rebuy that oil. So that means now you're going to go deeper into debt because now you got to rebuy that oil at future prices. So my thing is, it's like, what happens if we have like a massive hurricane? What happens if we have a war? What happens if there's some kind of natural disaster like Hurricane Sandy in 2012, which was totally unforeseen? Or what happens Hurricane Katrina in 2005, I believe? Totally unforeseen. Nobody could have imagined what would happen because it's like gas prices right now are still being artificially suppressed because they have the gas taxes have been basically suspended. They're going to come back in December. So my thing is, it's like, well, what happens when gas goes right back up? And what happens if gas spikes again? It's like nobody's thinking about this shit. And these dudes are out here trying to scratch together their pennies and trying to figure out how they can either sell the car they have now, which nobody wants, and the market is pretty much screwed up right now. Nobody wants what they have. There's dudes, like I'm watching these forums, there's dudes who have Hellcats who are trying to sell them because they think they're going to be able to scratch together enough money to buy a last call model. And they've literally convinced themselves that that little plastic last call sticker is going to make their car a collectible. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me. This is ridiculous. First of all, you buy one of those cars, these guys are using those cars. It's not like they're shrink wrapping them and keeping them in like a vacuum room or something like that, like they're super rich. They're not. Most of these dudes live in the fucking projects or they live in their parents' house. So my thing is, it's like they've literally convinced themselves to take out a ninja loan to buy something like that. That's a horrible financial decision. It's horrible, especially now. I'll say it like this. Back in maybe 2020, it seemed like it made sense. But back then, gas was like less than $2 premium for one. Insurance wasn't as high as it is now. And on top of that, the interest rates was basically zero because they were trying to get people to buy whatever they could get people to buy. In fact, back then, Chrysler, Fiat, whatever you want to call them, they had that power dollars. And they were literally offering you like $7,000 and $8,000 off because they were trying to move those cars as quickly as they could. Because you got to remember, buying these cars is basically welfare for Canada because these things are made in Canada and they basically are sending money up to Canada because those people otherwise, there's not even that many of them. It's less than 40 million. Like California has more people than all of Canada. So my thing is, it's like, I can understand the trade arrangement that they've got going here, but for people to go this deep into debt on shit just doesn't make sense to me. And that's the reason why, like, when I buy my Cadillac Lyric, I've cashed out most of my oil stock and put together the cash because I don't want to have to pay a car note. I don't want to put a car note. I want to fucking pay cash. But I digress. My thing is these electric vehicles are coming, and these electric vehicles they're the new thing. It's just what it is. They're the new thing. Now, I like the fact that more and more of them are getting built, and I like the fact that there's more variety. But my thing is, it's like I'm going to take my next YouTube check and I'm going to invest it in Lordstown and buy more of their stock. Like I bought their stock back when you first really heard about them and they had gone public. But now that they actually have working models, just like Rivian, just like Lucid, I've been adding shares to my portfolio to make sure that if they do blow up just like Tesla did over time, that I'm right there. Because right now, RIDE, RIDE, that's their stock ticker for Lordstown Motors. Right now, their shares are less than $2 a share. Now, when I think back to SM and SLCA Oil, I bought their stock at less than $2 a share, and I was able to sell SM well above $50 a share. And I sold SLCA Silica. They work with hydrofracking materials. I was able to sell them over $14. So my thing is, it went from 2 to 14. So my thing is, it's like getting this stuff this cheap. It's like I'll probably never buy one of these trucks. I'm not a truck guy. Strangely enough, the name's Big Truck Series, but I'm not really a truck person. The only truck I kind of ever really wanted to buy would have been the Avalanche or the Cadillac EXT, because I like the designs of the trucks. I didn't give a shit about no fucking flatbed. And I just like the fact that it was a luxury truck. And these new trucks look great. Like, for instance, I kind of like what GM's done with the Silverado EV. But it's probably going to be another year or two or something before you even see one of those things. And when they come out, they're going to be very high in price. Maybe in 2 or 3 years, maybe prices will go down. Maybe I'd buy a truck. I don't know. Maybe. But for right now, I'm sticking with the Lyric. But as for these electric vehicle stocks, I'm snapping these up right now. Now, you don't have to do the same thing I'm doing. I'm just letting you know what I'm doing. A little bit of what I'm doing. So, I'm not like Jim Cramer or some shit, and I'm not registered with FINRA, and I don't have to tell, it's insider trading or some shit. It's like, no. I'm just letting you know what I'm doing. So listen, you can take your money, you can do whatever you want with it. You can go to fucking McDonald's, you can take your girlfriend out for some crystal meth. I don't care. I'm just telling you a couple of my thoughts and what I'm doing, okay? And what do they say on MSNBC? They say past performance is no indicator of future performance. So here's the main event. I know you were waiting for this. So this comes from Market Watch. Property appraisers valued an interracial couple's home at $310,000 when they met the black homeowner, but gave their white partner a $350,000 valuation. Okay, now, let's see. Property appraisers valued an interracial couple's home at $310,000. Now, this is kind of interesting to me. They mention the fact that this is an interracial couple, but they don't mention the fact it's a homosexual couple. So my thing is, it's like, is Market Watch purposefully just leaving that out, or are they trolling me, or what? I don't know. So anyway, let me just keep on moving. Appraisal discrimination undermines black wealth, the president of the National Community Reinvestment Coalition said. Now let's read the story. Interracial couples were assigned different appraisal values for their home in Baltimore, Maryland area, depending on the skin color of the partner who greeted the appraiser and whether the house was whitewashed. A new study from the National Community Reinvestment Coalition shows. In one case, a single row house was valued at $350,000 when the appraiser met only with their white homeowner in an interracial relationship. They're still leaving out the fact that these are both guys. Okay, I just want to point that out. The person's black partner received a valuation of $310,000 given by a separate appraiser who met only with them, according to the NCRC, which said it chose the appraisers randomly and scheduled their inspections on different days, but as close together as possible. For each test, 2 full appraisals using 2 different appraisal companies were conducted, with the white partner presenting a whitewashed home where any evidence of their black male partner, including, because see, they keep leaving it out. I don't know why they keep leaving it out. Including family photos and cultural items, have been removed. The black male partner, on the other hand, presented a blackwashed. I didn't know you could blackwash a home. I thought the whole point of washing it was to make it white, like Tom Sawyer on the fence. But anyway, removing signs of the white partner. Why the fuck would you do that? But anyway, the discrimination we found in the appraisal system undermines black wealth building and almost certainly violates the law. Jesse Van Toll, president and CEO of the NCRC, a nonprofit based in Washington, D.C., said in a statement, "It is unacceptable for appraisers to undercut the value of homes and conduct themselves less professionally when dealing with black homeowners." The NCRC's study is hardly the only recent example of bias in the home appraisal industry, which is overwhelmingly white, according to government data. Earlier this year, the National Fair Housing Alliance issued an 84-page report noting how discriminatory associations between race and risk have historically undermined the value of black neighborhoods, including through color-coded maps that redline neighborhoods of color and deem them hazardous, making it difficult to get... hold on. Deem them hazardous, making it difficult to get mortgages in these areas. So, wait. When you say deem them hazardous... are you talking about like what? Are they more likely to set on fire or like? Here's my question. I want to stop right there. When they say that they deem these neighborhoods hazardous, what are they talking about? I'd like to know what they mean when they say that the neighborhoods are hazardous if it was all mostly black neighborhood. I'd like to know what the hazardous part means. I don't think I'm going to get an answer. Because home value has been the cornerstone of intergenerational wealth in the United States, the historical appraisal practices have had long-term effects in creating some of the current wealth inequalities where white wealth has soared while black wealth has remained stagnant, the report said. Last year, Freddie Mac FMCC also said that based on data from more than 12 million appraisals, it discovered that 12.5% of homes in black census tracts received an appraisal value lower than the contract price, compared to 7.4% of homes in white census tracts. So let's just keep in mind, based on this, it says, 12.5% of homes in black census tracts received an appraisal value lower than the contract price, compared to 7.4% of homes in white census tracts. So let's just keep this in mind. These are the actual numbers that they're putting forward. But it does happen. And that's my point. It happens to whites and it happens to blacks. So it happens to blacks at a higher rate, but it does happen to whites too. I just want to keep that in perspective. Furthermore, a 2018 Brookings Institution study found that homes in majority black neighborhoods were undervalued by 23% less on average, amounting to $48,000 less per home when compared to the value of homes of similar quality in neighborhoods with similar amenities, but few to no black residents. Well, I think it's obvious. We're understanding what's happening here, but I also find it kind of odd that they keep on leaving out the fact that this isn't just an interracial couple. I find that very interesting. Notice that all throughout this story that they never mention that these are two guys. Just keep that in mind. A black couple. Now they refer to them as a black couple or interracial couple. All right. No, you know what? Just keep it in mind. Hold on. A black couple in Marin County, California, for example, said an appraiser assigned their home a value of $995,000 in 2020, which they felt was low because they'd made $400,000 in renovations. When the black couple brought in a white friend to act as if the property belonged to her, though, a different appraiser valued the home at $1.48 million, according to KGO-TV. So they got the white front woman. They got her to stand in there. So what they did was they went and they got Just Pearly Things. And they say, hey, Just Pearly Things, I need you to come here. And I want you to pretend that you're selling my house. And let's see if they give you a higher value. So obviously, Just Pearly Things gets the higher value than me. Big Truck doesn't get the high value. Big Truck gets the low value. Except for, well, no, I'll get to that later. Okay, these disparities have also been the subject of various lawsuits from black homeowners alleging mistreatment. The family later sued the first appraiser and her company, and a trial is set to take place next fall, according to the North Bay Business Journal. A settlement deal was reached with the other party in the lawsuit, the firm that hired the appraisers, the North Bay Business Journal reported. And in Baltimore, a black history professor and his wife, a lecturer in literature and Africana studies, said that before they began to refinance their home last summer, a local appraisal company valued their home at $472,000, just $22,000 more than the amount they had paid in 2017, despite $35,000 in renovations and a new $5,000 tankless water heater, according to the New York Times. The family was then denied a refinance loan. Let me think about this for a second. It says local appraiser valued their home at $472,000, just $22,000 more than the amount that they paid in 2017, despite $35,000 renovations. But the family was divided. Well, the only thing that I have to wonder about this is what was their credit score before, what was their credit score after, and whether or not anything changed with them as far as their employment. Because first of all, let's just be perfectly honest. Between 2017 and 2019, banks were making loans. I know because I bought my house in 2018. Now, the question, you got to understand, first of all, anytime anybody gets a mortgage or a refinance loan, there's a number of factors that go into that. I'd like to see maybe all of the evidence, but I guess I probably never will because it's obvious these stories only tell you part of the story, just like our couple up above. So anyway, however, when they remove family here we go. When they remove family photos and a white male colleague stood in for a second appraisal, their home was deemed to be worth $750,000. They ultimately sued the mortgage lender who denied their loan, the appraisal company who gave their first appraisal, and the first appraiser who they said improperly weighed the value of their home against the sale prices of comparable properties that allegedly included a fixer-upper and a property outside the boundaries of their neighborhood, according to the New York Times. Both cases were mentioned in the NCRC's report. The evidence of systemic bias in the appraisal business has been mounting for some time. Van Tol said in his statement about the NCRC's report, but NCRC's new testing showed that interracial couples in Baltimore get far better treatment and valuations if the appraiser believes the homeowner and their family are white. Okay, so that means that if I ever try to sell this place, I'm going to go out and get me a guy. I'm not going to be very specific about this person. I'm just going to say that their last name has to end with W-I-T-Z. Their last name has to be Vitz. And I'm going to bring Vitz, let's call him Lefkowitz. Lefkowitz, I'm going to get Lefkowitz. He can come in and pretend to be me. He's going to sell my house. Okay, so I'll get back to that in a minute. The NCRC study examined appraisals across 4 interracial couples who own homes in the Baltimore area. 14 appraisals conducted across 7 tests. On average, the white partners received valuations worth nearly $7,000 more than their black partners, despite showing the same property. The black partners also sometimes received dramatically worse customer service. Yeah, I'm not surprised about that. during the tests. While white partners universally reported having pleasant experiences in receiving their appraisal reports promptly across all 7 tests, black partners had negative experiences in 2 of the 7 tests. The NCRC report has said one black partner was ghosted by the appraiser and never received a report. Another was asked to pay up front, and they didn't receive their test for nearly 11 weeks. Test. Okay? Those kinds of delays can cost black homeowners money in the home selling or refinancing process. The NCRC noted, either by getting in the way of a sale or by subjecting the homeowner to increased borrowing costs as interest rates rise. To be sure, the Appraisal Institute, a professional association of appraisers, says it's trying to improve diversity in the profession, and its president, Jody Bishop, told the House Committee on Financial Services earlier this year that the organization was deeply concerned about allegations of bias. When we see even one story of a consumer who feels they were treated differently because of their race, it's gut-wrenching because that goes against everything appraisers stand for. Bishop said in a statement to Market Watch, appraisal is one piece of a larger ecosystem to look at when it comes to housing issues. And that's pretty much what I say, too. Sometimes it's not just the appraisal. Sometimes it's not just the credit worthiness. There's other factors, too. But I know a lot of people just want to say, no, it's because we're black. It's because we're black. You being racist. It's racist. Okay? And listen, you're entitled to your opinion. I would just like to see the rest of the evidence. Ensuring unconscious bias doesn't play a role in appraisals, and seeking broader solutions to diversity, equity, and inclusion in housing is a priority for the Appraisal Institute. Creating a more equitable housing environment in this country will take solutions advanced by real estate brokers, agents, banks, government agencies, appraisers, and others. Okay, that is the story. So, right now, I mean, I read this. I'm not seeing a real smoking gun here. I don't know if they didn't even leave these people's names. But okay, I'm not really seeing a smoking gun. But I will say this, and I've said this a million times, especially when it comes to credit alone, when I talk about credit. People make assumptions about you based on, A, what you look like, B, how you speak, and C, in many cases, what you're wearing. I will also say they make assumptions on you based upon what you're driving. Like, for example, there was a specific mortgage company I was working for when I first started working mortgages. I'm not going to name names. And it was important to me to always show up with a suit on. It was secondarily important to have a nice car. And when I say a nice car, I'm specifically pointing at the 2007 Mercedes S-Class. When you are driving around in something that looks like that, people don't fuck around with you because they know you must have some money. Your suit also tells them you must be somebody. Not only that, the way you speak also tells them, this must be somebody. Like, for example, we take people with British accents very seriously, regardless what color they are. And I've noticed that, and you've probably seen it in some of my videos, when you have a British accent, everybody who's American automatically takes you seriously, as if they've been conditioned to do so. It's like Tywin Lannister wouldn't be Tywin Lannister if he had a North Jersey accent, okay? People take him seriously because he's British. So if you want to call it unconscious bias, fine. I don't have a problem with that. But the reality is, when you know the game, people can't fuck around with you. And that's the bottom line. When you have excellent credit and you walk in, like for instance, I've always poked at these people who keep saying, oh yeah, well, I couldn't get the loan and this, that, and other. And then I'd be like, well, what was your credit score? And they go, oh, it's only like 620. I'd be like, do you think that's good? That's not good. That's bad. That's really bad. I've tried to lecture people one-on-one or individually about how to achieve better credit. Some of them listen to me, and some of them absolutely have improved their credit. Others have basically ignored my suggestions, and they continue to have nothing. But the thing about it is, when you talk to people and you explain these things to them and you explain all the nuances and you explain all of the facets and all the pieces that have to come together in order for you to easily get a loan. It's like with me, when I bought my last house, all I did was walk in there, told them, yes, I'm interested in buying a house. I let them run the credit check on me because it was a broker, and brokers shop around with your credit score so that they can get the best deals. The only other thing they really asked for was my tax returns, and I had digital tax returns dating back for like 3 years. I think they had asked for 3 years, so I gave them 4 just in case. And then they also asked for proof that you're working right now and how much money you make. So I gave them pay stubs. I think they only asked for like 3 pay stubs, but I gave them 4. And I gave them the easiest freaking loan ever. It was so easy to get it approved because I showed that I made the money. I showed that I had the credit. I showed that I had the credit history. I showed that basically I was credit worthy. The only issue was finding the house that I wanted to buy. So we had to go out, me and the broker. He was a cool dude. He was okay. And we went out and we went looking for houses. And we went from one house to another house. And, and I looked at the things that I felt made sense and what I didn't like and this, that, and other. And based on the amounts that I told him I was shopping for, basically, based on what I told him I was willing to pay for what I bought and what I told him that I was willing to pay for taxes, that pretty much limited the areas that I knew he was going to show me. Because, there's some people that like to scream racism when they say, yeah, well, I was looking for a $100,000 house in a $500,000 market, and they kept showing me cheap houses that were near people I don't want to live near. But it's like, hey, guess what? Listen, you told them you want to buy a house for like a fifth of what a house costs now, and it doesn't work that way, Like if you had said, yeah, I'm P. Diddy and I've got $30 million in my pocket, and I want to buy a $22 million mansion. Well, under those circumstances, yeah, it's easier for you to shop for a $22 million mansion. But if you come in on some bullshit, yeah, I've got a 620 credit score and I've got about $5,000 in cash and I want to buy a house, yeah, chances are you're going to get discriminated against. I'll just say it just like that. Chances are. But in this case, this is similar to another story I read where there's a woman, I believe it was a black woman, and she said that she had gotten discriminated against and people were giving her low offers and everything. And I'm like, well, first of all, we have apps like Zillow, and we've got things that are basically telling you like what houses are worth. Like, for instance, if I go on Zillow right now, I can look at any of my properties and I can find out exactly what they're worth. Like, I could go on Zillow right now and I can find out exactly what they're worth. Now, maybe it's because I'm a man and I'm programmed a certain way, but my strategy is to simply tell you, no, this is what I want for it. And if you don't like my number, you can fuck off. And that's it. So, like, for example, I have an aunt. And my aunt has a nice brownstone, and she's in Brooklyn, right? To be perfectly honest, I hate where she lives. She lives in a very, how should I say, a very crowded area. First of all, I like being able to walk around my house. Like I have a side lot. I have a parking area on one side of my house. I got a backyard. I got a front yard. So I can literally walk 360. I can walk all the way around my house in a circle if I want. If I have my lawnmower, I can drive my lawnmower in a circle around my house and mow everything around my house. Her house is a brownstone, so it's locked in on both sides. You cannot walk around the house. You can only walk through it. I hate that. Now, she has been there for a long time, so she's used to it. But so first of all, cut to the chase. She's a black woman. She bought this house when it was less than $165,000. Now, that was a long time ago. That was like back in like the 90s, right? This was before 9/11. Before 9/11. So figure 96, 97, 98, something like that, right? And I think she actually owned it since like 95. But bottom line is she bought it before 9/11. That was 2001. right now, even though she bought the house for like 170 or less, right now her house appraises for like $3 million. And in that area, like I've read stories to you about how apartments here, one bedroom apartments are going for damn near $4,000 a month in Manhattan. Well, she has a basement apartment that she can rent for over $3,000 a month if she so chooses. Now, she doesn't charge that much because, she likes having good tenants and she likes treating her tenants nice and everything. And, she doesn't want her tenants to complain and this, that, and other. And I had always talked to her. I was like, listen, what you should do is renovate the basement and then charge more, because that's my thinking. And my other idea for her, I was like, listen, if you ever want to move, all you got to do is decide how much you want for this place, and I'll make a sign for you in Chinese Mandarin, and we'll put Christmas lights around it so everybody sees it. And we'll also put that same sign in Yiddish, and we'll put Christmas lights around that so everybody sees it. And even though your house is worth like what, 3 million, if you put on that sign, yes, I want to sell for 4 million, or I want to sell for 5 million. The bottom line is the only people who will enter your yard are people who know that they have $5 million. Like if I say, yeah, I want to sell for 5 million, even though I know it's only three. Now somebody may come in and they'd be like, oh, but this isn't worth 5 million. I'd be like, get the fuck out. And that's it. That's it. You ain't got to argue with people when you have power. You ain't got to argue with these motherfuckers. That's it. It's just like right now with my Jeep SRT. There's a lot of these people out there who've convinced themselves that someday these cars are going to be worth a lot of money. As far as I'm concerned, no, they're not. And listen, you can believe what you want to believe. I believe in a different way. I think these things are plastic, and they barely have the ability to make it to 50,000 miles without needing major work. But the bottom line is, when I sell that car to Cadillac or trade it in or whatever, or sell it to whoever I sell for, I'm going to demand no less than, let's say, about 35, right? 35,000. Now, if somebody looks at it and says, oh, yeah, well, I don't want to pay that much, I'll be like, I don't care. So if you don't like it, goodbye. I'll sell it to Cadillac. They can give it to me. I don't care what you think. And I think I don't know what it is. I think people negotiate themselves into fucking holes or so. I don't know how to explain it. But some people just don't get it. It's like if I tell you that this shit's worth $1, then that's what it's worth. There's an old saying. They say price is what you pay and value is what you get. Price is what you pay, value is what you get. I think a lot of people confuse price and value. The price of something may be high, but its value may not exactly be worth that. It's like if I were to buy, I don't know, an electric car. I might be able to get a good deal on an electric car, but the value increases rapidly during COVID or during the gas increases when the gas prices go up. So I may have paid 50,000, but I'm driving around in a car that's appreciating in value while I'm driving it, which most people understand what I'm talking about, because anybody who had a Tesla Model Y or a Tesla Model 3 or a Tesla Model X within the last year understands that when gas prices were hitting $6 and $7, even though to them their car, they paid what, $80,000, $90,000. There were people who were so desperate to get one that they were willing to pay much more, because for them the value was something that they perceived was higher than what the person who owned it perceived. Now I'm saying all that to say this. It's like this whole idea about discrimination and appraising. If the people come and they say, listen, we're willing to pay you this. If they see you or they see your boyfriend here and they see the both of you and they're like, yeah, I'm only willing to pay this, that, and other, I'd be like, okay, well, thank you very much, sir. Have a nice day. Goodbye. That's it. You don't have to sell for less then you want to sell. Like you tell people, yeah, I have a very firm. If it's $168,000 that you want, then that's what you get. You put it on the market and say it's $168,000, non-negotiable. So like it always like just weirds me out when I see people who are like complaining about somebody offering them less because they perceive them to be weaker. We've dealt with this all the time. They do that to women all the time. It's like if you're a mechanic, you may charge a woman more because you know that she doesn't know any better and that a man would know better, or you think a man would know better and that he'd be willing to pay it. Because the assumption men have is that men know about cars and women don't. So is that discrimination? Yeah, it is. Is it provable in court? You might have some problems with that. But my thing is, this is common. Now, as far as this thing that I go back to where in this article it says that these black neighborhoods were, what is it called? What was that word? They said that it was more dangerous or some shit. What did they say? Wait, where's that word? Where's that word? They said that the black neighborhoods were more hazardous, I think it was. What was that word? I forgot. I gotta look back through this. But anyway, yeah, they were basically saying that they said the black neighborhoods were dangerous or some shit, right? Now, I don't know anything about these neighborhoods where these people are selling this stuff. But the bottom line is, let's be perfectly honest. There are some neighborhoods, regardless. First of all, I hate putting skin color on anything, but there are certain neighborhoods that are dangerous. There are certain schools that are dangerous. There's certain schools in certain areas with certain colored people that are dangerous. And I hate using color because as far as I'm concerned, color does not necessarily correspond to crime. Socioeconomic conditions are a major factor. Like if you find me a bunch of black people living in a rich socioeconomic status because everybody is in that area, everybody's rich and wealthy and shit, chances are it's not going to be dangerous at all. And that's just that. But socioeconomic status plays a huge role. And I really don't like correlating skin color with crime because I think that's ridiculous. But what they're saying in this article is that's exactly what's happening. Of course, I could go further with that. Gender shouldn't be used to correlate necessarily anything because, people are different. Just because somebody is a woman doesn't mean she doesn't know anything about cars. I mean, what if Danica Patrick comes in and she needs new tires? Are you going to try to rip her off? Right? Does that make sense? And, what about sexual orientation, like this article doesn't want to point out? Maybe, maybe they know a lot about the mortgage process. It's like, it's really bad. It's really, like, first of all, discrimination is natural. People do it unconsciously, consciously. But lawsuits, I mean, it's like, yeah, they could do all the lawsuits they want. It's not going to change shit. People have been doing this forever. And this whole thing about redlining, the issue that I have with redlining is that redlining is based upon the belief that just because of a certain skin color, you're going to vote a certain way. Well, apparently they've never met black Republicans before. Because right now, Georgia, they're trying to figure out why there's so many people of a certain skin color supporting Herschel Walker. Or they're trying to figure out why people of a certain gender are supporting a certain candidate. It's like, all of these levels of discrimination and redlining and everything, you're basically assuming that I'm going to vote a certain way just because you took one look at me and saw that either I was a man, a woman, or a certain color. It's just stupid. Discrimination is inefficient and it's stupid. And yeah, people are going to do it naturally because that's what people do, but it doesn't make any sense. It's illogical. It's totally illogical. So I brought this story up. This was probably to you, it was probably a boring story because Market Watch handled it with so much care. And, there's so many things they didn't talk about that they could have talked about, but they didn't talk about. Yeah, I mean, I don't know how you feel about this. Maybe you've gone through something, similar. All I know is if I ever decide like to sell any of my properties, I'm going to find myself a number. I don't give a shit what your offer is. If I tell you that I want A, B, or C, then I'm going to get A, B, or C, and that's it. And if you don't like it, I can just say goodbye, have a nice day, and I'll get the next person in here. Because the reality is we're entering such a bad economic condition that and it's sad because there's so many people who think the housing prices are going to just collapse. That's not going to happen. And even if they did, chances are you're not even in a position to buy. Because you got to remember, just because house prices could drop today and most people still aren't in a position to buy. Number one, you've got to deal with all of these foreign buyers who've got cash money in briefcases that you don't. Meanwhile, you're busy trying to get a loan and they've got cash money in a fucking briefcase. So you may not be able to beat the next person. That's number one. Number two, chances are your credit ain't shit. Most people have been spending on their credit cards. Most people have been running their credit cards into the ground. Their FICO scores are down. But there's a lot of people, they're saying all these reports that there's people who aren't even paying their utility bills. So they're not paying their utility bills, they're not paying their cell phone bills because they can't afford this recession that we've been in. They can't afford this stagflation that we're in. So my thing is, just because housing prices drop doesn't mean you're buying shit. I was watching the Stephen Graham show a little while ago, and his show today was about that they're still trying to get rid of credit scores. Still trying to get rid of credit scores. Now, the Biden administration has been trying to get rid of credit scores for a while. But the thing about it is I think they realized that that was too much to bite and it was too much to chew. But my thing is, thinking logically from the point of view of somebody who has an excellent credit score and an excellent credit background, my thing is the credit FICO scores, it's nothing but it's stratification. It's designed to put people who are at high credit risk lower on the totem pole, and people who are low credit risk are put to the top of the credit system. They're put to the top of the totem pole. So my thing is, do you really think that just by getting rid or dissolving the credit system, you really think that that's going to suddenly make it possible to mix people up enough where you think that you're going to bring up your constituents who have shitty credit? Or do you think that Mr. Bigwig, the person who has the excellent credit score, do you really think that by mixing up the credit system and throwing it into chaos, do you really think that that's going to bring me down? It's not. I didn't get where I am by making shitty financial decisions. I didn't get where I am by wasting money and not having anything to show for it and not paying my bills. The people who are fucked with their credit did make bad decisions. Those are bad decisions that they'll never own up to. Those are bad life choices that they'll never own up to. Those are bad education choices that they'll never own up to. Those are bad spending choices that they'll never own up to. Those are bad spending habits that they'll never own up to. So my thing is, I've told the story a million times. When I graduated from college, I had 500 FICO scores. I had terrible credit because I defaulted on loans. I had student debt. I had no job at the time. And yeah, I had bad credit because I earned bad credit. But as soon as I started working, paid off all my bills on time, paid down my student loan debt, and all of a sudden my credit started to rise. Now I'm at the very goddamn tippy top, the apex of the freaking mountain. And I have a skin color that they're saying is supposed to hold me back. Meanwhile, I walked into Babylon, nothing but white people as brokers, and I had my house about a month later. So, like, what you're dealing with is egalitarianism. These people think that by making all of us poor, that they can make us equal. That's what they think. These are the worst kind of socialists. These are stupid people. Number one, they're stupid. Number two, they're uneducated. Number three, any education that they have received, they actually think that it means a damn, and it doesn't. These egalitarianists are idiots. That's what they are. And the sad thing is, they really believe that we can all be equal in poverty. Well, I'm not willing to go that route. I'm not willing to go that route. I'm not willing to go down the toilet bowl with you. I'm just not. It's like oil and water. You can mix them up as much as you want, but they still going to separate because, one's polar and one's non-polar. The oil is non-polar, the water's polar. So the reality is, it's like you can try to throw us into chaos. You can try to force businesses to shut down for COVID and try to run those businesses out. You can try to get people to leave their homes and give up their houses to the homeless because you think the state can take over all of this property and that they could just start renting it out. You think the state can take over the hotels and just start rent. It's not going to work. It's just not going to work. In fact, I really ought to show that story, in fact. That's what I think I'll do as a closer. I feel it necessary to point out that the Biden administration claimed that they were trying to get rid of credit scores in response to the COVID pandemic. Now, the way I see it, it's like, first of all, that was never going to fly. But when you look at the actual background of some of these things that they've been talking about all this time. Well, first of all, it hasn't happened. I'd like to point out that, they were talking about it, but it hasn't happened yet. And they've been talking about it since at least, 2021. Now, this article's from 2021. And they've been talking about this since, basically through the fourth quarter of at least 2020. But JP Morgan, others plan to issue credit cards to people with no credit scores. I'm not going to read this whole thing. But the point of the matter is they're trying to force people that don't have credit cards or credit scores into debt. Now, there's a whole lot of people who purposefully live without credit cards. Now, I personally think that that's not a good idea, but these people, they live by it. They say, nah, I'm going to go cash on everything. I'm not having a credit card. Fine. They have every right to do that. But these banks and this government, which, by the way, is $31 trillion in debt, and these banks, which I believe it was Mark Twain who said that banks are excellent at giving money to people who don't need it. It was some quote to that effect, or people who need the money least. But the point is, they are desperate to turn everyone into debtors. That's what this system exceeds at. They are so good at creating debt. But debt is slavery, as you know. And they are very good also in this country at putting people into slavery. So, what does it say? It says some of the largest U.S. banks plan to start sharing data on customers' deposit accounts as part of a government-backed initiative to extend credit to people who have traditionally lacked opportunities to borrow. I would argue most of these people haven't lacked the opportunity to borrow. They don't want to borrow. If they wanted to borrow, they would go sign up for a credit card. I mean, how long does it take to sign up for a credit card? We've got the cell phones in our hands right now. If you want an Apple card, you can go right now in Apple Wallet and you can ask for an Apple card. And if they consider you credit worthy based on whatever you've got in your background, they will give you one, even if it's a low limit. And you can spend with that Apple card pretty much on anything you want. You don't have to buy Apple products. Same goes for Visa, same goes for MasterCard. You can apply for a credit card right now. So why is it that the government is pushing banks to force people to have credit cards? Because that's basically what it's coming down to. That's basically, they're trying to force you into a credit card. What if you don't want one? I know people who I had trouble convincing that they should start a credit card account. Two of them specifically were divorcees. And the reason why they didn't have any credit was because their husband, or their ex-husband, I should say, he was the one who had all the credit. And I had to convince him. I was like, listen, you don't have any credit, so you're not going to be able to get car loans and this, that, and other. Oh, but I don't want a credit card to this. So I was like, all right, say no more. It's like, I'm not going to fucking argue with you, and you're telling me that you don't want to take the fucking advice. My thing is, it's like I'm being Alexandrian. I want to solve things with one precise cut. If you're telling me that you can't get an auto loan because you have no credit, and I tell you, okay, well, then all you got to do is sign up for a credit card. And then you're going to start that bullshit. Oh, but I don't want a credit card. It's like, what the fuck do you want me to say? Because I hope you're not asking me for money. I'm not giving you shit. So this is just where we are. This is where we are. This is where we are as a country right now. It's so sad. It's so sad. But yeah, that's basically all my rant is for today. So I just felt I ranted on that. And I guess the last thing that I'll say is it's been a very, very interesting week, specifically Kanye West and Mark Zuckerberg. First of all, I've already mentioned how much I enjoy watching Mark Zuckerberg lose all his money. The metaverse is a stupid idea. The last thing that I want to do when I come home from a hard day's work is to put on a fucking virtual reality headset. That's the last thing I want to do. I don't want to do that at all. But he's 100% certain that I'm supposed to want to put a motherfucking virtual reality helmet on and give myself a headache. Also today, Pelosi's husband was attacked in home and he suffered serious injuries. My guess is it was probably somebody who's angry about their NVIDIA stock. Let's see. There was other stories. Elon Musk successfully purchased Twitter this morning. And naturally, there's all these liberals who are very upset about the fact that Elon Musk bought Twitter because they thought that they'd simply be able to, be on there and say whatever they want and make it so nobody else could. Well, it looks like that shit came to an end. And also, then you also have Kanye West, who basically pigeonholed himself, which is kind of strange because you think back to like Bill Cosby. Bill Cosby was trying to buy NBC, and then all of a sudden he had like several dozen, 100 rape allegations come out against him. And now Kanye West basically, he was trying to buy, what was it, Truth Social, and basically ended up talking himself into a corner. And now everybody is disconnecting from him. Adidas, Skechers told him to get the fuck out. And then you got his supposedly he has like a little school or something that's closing. And then it's a flurry of news. And the interesting thing to me is everybody who's on his side, like, oh yeah, well, this is an elaborate chess game. Kanye knows what he's doing. He's got the opposition right where he wants them. I'm like, uh-huh. Yeah, that's when I start rolling my eyes, That's when I roll my eyes real far into the back of my head. It's like, you are fucking ridiculous. But that's just what it is. So, I can't really think of too much else that's going on in the news. Brittany Griner's appeal to be let go is basically turned down. They're basically going to do her like they did on that movie, The Longest Yard. They're going to force her to train Russian basketball female players or something. So, yeah, that sucks for her. And I guess that's kind of about it. I think I touched on just about all of the major news because there wasn't really a whole lot really to talk about. So, yeah, that's basically that. There you go. Elon Musk owns Twitter. Zuckerberg lost more money. Nancy Pelosi's husband got beat up. And what else? What else? I think that's about it. Yeah, there's nothing really else. So, yeah, I just talked myself into exhaustion. So, I guess that's about it for today. I can't really think of anything else to say, so that'll be all for tonight. You have a good day and enjoy your week.